But when you get behind the wheel, give your phone to a passenger. Put it in the glove box. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media platforms we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of ways to get at us. I mean, we say all those, not just as a, well, these are fun places to hang out. I mean, they can be. The comments that come in are one of the real driving factors of it. And we will, of course, have those phone lines open a little bit later in the program as we have Calvin Williams wishing us all a good afternoon. To you as well out there, as also Robbie Flores and Monica Cervantes dropping those likes there. I do appreciate the reactions, just because as much as we are floating on the currents of the sea of the social media in a lot of these ways, and not as in control of them well, we'll keep doing what we do here in this program and on those platforms for as long as we're able to stay up on them anyway. And, well, just having those comments is just a great bit of life conversation happening online these days is, well, a lot of the conversation happening in the world, at least in this country anyway. So having those is important to us as it is important to you all, and it just all serves to have a continuation of our mission of having more live local talk radio here in the Borderland, because talking about the things no one else is going to do it the way we do here in the Borderland, and there's a whole lot to talk about today. On top of mind, property taxes. I know we've been having a lot of local focus here, even including earlier this week with Robbie Gray, editor of El Paso Link, talking about some of those anticipated rates going out to around, like, it looks on average 15 to 17%. But of course, this is not the only corner of the Lone Star State that is seeing this pretty stark increase, including a lot of the other major metroplexes within the Lone Star State looking at 15, 30, even 50% increases, prompting a really great article title that I mean, you think whatever I think about the outlet, but someone had fun with this one. What the bleep is going on with Texas property taxes? So, we'll talk about that. And of course, more Roe v. Wade impending decision and expected final decision fallout coming in, including conversations going on here in the Borderland as, among others, Congresswoman Veronica Escobar speaks in a news conference along with other advocates here today. We'll certainly talk about that. And then, of course, our guests today, because we're actually going to be squeezing in a couple here, one in each hour of the program. Coming up this hour, we're starting kind of re-delving into our focus on some of these primary runoff races, specifically that county commissioner seat precinct 4. Of course, we brought you all of the candidates in these decently crowded field on the Republican side of things earlier on. We're going to be following up with those now on this runoff ballot, as well as those on the Democrat runoff ballot. So stay tuned for all of that, because there's a whole lot to, what's important to them, what are their policies, and what is that going to mean as you head to that ballot box. And so let's just take a quick moment to lay out the elections that we have, because you might be thinking, if you've listened to this show, or even failingly regularly, I don't blame you at all. This is not, we don't keep attendance here or anything, but you may have heard me say that there's an election going on right now, and there is. Technically, early voting is over here, but we still got Election Day coming up for that. I love the name, but I always get it wrong here. For that uniform and special election. Just a great name. I don't know why I like it. Because, of course, we've got seats in the city of San Rosario, town of Anthony, and Texas constitutional amendments on the ballot. So, again, that Election Day going to be this Saturday, May 7th. I will freely admit, did not get out to the polls early on, but I will be going, of course, on Saturday, right after some of our other programming. 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. will be your time to do that, and certainly worth your while, because I'm not holding out just a terrific amount of hope. I will be floored if we hit 5% voter turnout here, which, of course, just means that your vote is that much more important, because the fewer that do it, the more impact you technically have. Just a little devil advocate kind of argument there. But then we have, right on the heels of this, we have the primary runoff election, because that early voting period starting here in a couple of weeks, May 16th. So we're getting a little bit ahead of that, making sure we talk with as many candidates as possible ahead of the start of early voting there. So we're going to be revisiting with the Precinct 4 candidates across the ballot here. And just as a reminder there, if you voted Democrat, you have to stay Democrat. If you voted Republican, you have to stay Republican. If you did not vote, don't worry, I'll forgive you eventually, but you can vote in either primary, but you are then technically locked into it through the remainder of this primary season. This would be the end of it, of course, but that's the thing you sign when you are choosing the ballot you vote on within the state of Texas, that you are committing to that. So no switcheroos there, but if you haven't made your decision yet or didn't commit to the first one, again, we can still remain friends, though. I'm not mad, I'm disappointed. But just make sure you go out and vote now, and all will be forgiven again eventually. So those are some of the things going on right now. So again, this great article title from Texas Monthly. I sleep on Texas Monthly sometimes, and I forget that it's a interesting review, if irreverent at times, and this article title bears it out. What the bleep is going on with Texas property taxes? No, that's not self-censorship on my part. That's literally the title of it here. Subtitles, no, sorry, we can't blame the Californians. Here's more than you ever want to know about your home's skyrocketing appraisal. Because, of course, we've talked about this quite a lot within our local area, about these increasing property taxes. Again, about 17 to 17%, depending on, probably going to go downward, as I'm assuming, without anything real to back it up, except for the fact that a lot of people are saying, what the hell, right now, that there will be a lot of contestations of values. That's my expectation here. But then it's also a lot of pain from across the state here. Again, according to Texas Monthly, they're citing 15 to 30% in Harris County, 20% in Tarrant County, 24% in Dallas County, 25% in Bexar County, and 53% in Travis County, just to name a few. So, not that what's happening here isn't of concern, and certainly going to be an issue as we get further along into these elections and budget seasons. It puts it in perspective. So it's not wow, we have no room to complain. We have plenty of room to complain. If I was ever going to say, by the way, no complaining is ever allowed ever, this show would kind of be over. So we're not going to get into that. But then just 53% in Travis County. I guess I'm not that surprised given the explosion of real estate and costs in that area. I know more than a couple of people, family friends that I've known for a good chunk of my life, that have had property there, that either if they move away to not even like another country, but just even another part of the state, they could basically retire off of what the home they bought for a reasonable price back in the day for. Or those that did move away are now thinking, oh man, why didn't I just hold on to that property? Because right now it is, John Hertz, hopefully not incriminating yourself there over in the comments, saying, honestly, don't care what property taxes go to. I don't pay them. Again, that's certainly a strategy you can take, and there are legal ways to do it and less than legal ways, of course, to do that. So just saying, make sure. And John Hertz calling out anyone voting Democrat. Again, we're talking about the county primaries here. And historically, there have been more than a couple of positions that is the election for, including some of these state representatives we were talking with. So I'm not going to fault anyone for choosing to vote as long as they're voting at this point. If you got your own personal opinion on it, you're, of course, entitled to it. But by saying that, no, y'all shouldn't be voting, that's where we'll have issues here, because this is, again, the state primary. So a lot of important issues on the ballot there and going to be decided as we then head into it. So that's why we will be talking with, again, those Precinct 4 candidates for County Commissioner's Court here today. But then just one other thing we got to mention here, besides, of course, the property taxes, are, of course, what was coming out of Congresswoman Veronica Escobar of El Paso's news conference downtown here today with a variety of advocates and organizations. A lot of organizations involved in talking with it here, and RJ just commenting on the real estate situation and the home valuations. Nice if you're selling, bad if you're not, is what I'm going to choose to say there, just in case the Facebook gods decide to mess with us today. But yeah, Congresswoman Veronica Escobar holding that news conference earlier today with a variety of advocates, essentially decrying that, again, leaked but now confirmed to be legitimate draft majority decision from the Supreme Court that would effectively overturn Roe v. Wade, and also Casey is the other major one there being brought up here. But just to give you an overview of what the organizations were, including a Planned Parenthood of Greater Texas, a sociologist and reproductive health researcher, Frontera folks for reproductive rights, and a whole lot more. So they'll certainly have more discussion about that as more local discussion comes up here. And some of the questions coming in, again, John Hurt saying, show me where in the Constitution it allows abortion. But that's a conversation we're having ongoing here, and one of the arguments I have the most issue with. But of course, we got a whole lot more that we'll be getting into here in this show. We got to take that first break of the hour right now because we got a lot to get to. Again, we'll be doing 2 interviews today. This one coming up right now. We will be visiting with Blanca Trout, again, Republican candidate for the nomination for the Precinct 4 County Commissioner's Court seat. So that after this break, we'll be talking about her reviewing some of her platform issues and some of these county ones, including, of course, you guessed it, property valuations and property taxes coming off of that. So stay tuned for more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Phone lines open a little bit later in the program, as we do. Just a little bit constrained today, so just be Johnny on the spot with it when we get there. But otherwise, see you in a minute. More Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned. If you're thinking about dinner time, you're definitely thinking in the right way, and particularly how you can make it a good home-cooked family meal as much as possible. I have often found myself more often than not when things get busy saying that, maybe I won't cook tonight, but whenever I do, there is definitely a great local resource to help spice up my life and your life too, Enhanced Flavors, because they offer a great selection and over 40 different varieties of extra virgin olive oils and balsamic vinegars, and of course flavored olive oils, still experimenting with that jalapeno lime light balsamic vinegar that I got there, because there's just a lot of possibilities and a lot of flavors they offer. Of course, a lot of their goods coming from some of the best places in the world from it. Olive oils imported from Tunisia, Italy, Greece, and Spain. In fact, all of their balsamic vinegars are also imported straight from the Modena province of Italy, because otherwise it doesn't count. Can't call it that. So they've got the good stuff, and it can really help spice up your life and just get more flavors in for you and your family and make mealtime a truly joyous time. Of course, you can find them online at enhancedflavors.com. That's enhanced with a D, flavors.com. And they are out in the community. Again, if you missed them out at the Lavinia Wine Fest, you missed a great time. I love seeing them, and even some other people that I've been with internationally, looking to them for their selection. But you can find them in upcoming weeks. Of course, they're usually out at the Upper Valley Arts and Farmers Market. They're near Crossroads in the Hobby Lobby parking lot, just not too far from Donovan and Mesa. Or again, all the information on their selection, where they're going to be, and all that good stuff at enhancedflavors.com. Again, enhancedflavors.com.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Police responding to a crash reported eastbound Paisano Drive at the 110. Most of your El Paso freeway is looking pretty good. There's some slowing on the 10 westbound between Hawkins and Paisano Drive with 7-minute delays. Another crash northbound Mesa Drive north of Schuster at Baltimore, and another injury accident Sunset Drive west of the I-10 at Osborne Drive. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Rocket Mortgage. When you apply for a home loan, there are different options depending on your situation and needs. With Rocket Mortgage, you can see how different down payments, monthly payments, and closing costs will impact your loan and your budget. When you need a lender who works for you, Rocket can.
Maybe you've had to put off a health appointment or two during the COVID-19 pandemic. But if you're 45 or older, there's one test you shouldn't put off any longer: regular screening for colorectal cancer. Colorectal cancer is a leading cancer killer, but it can be prevented with regular screening starting at 45. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. It takes guts to put your health first. Ask your doctor about your options today. Visit cdc.gov/screen4life for more information.
Are you wondering if the COVID vaccine is right for your child? If you can trust it. My name is Dr. Moira Salaji. I'm the president of the American Academy of Pediatrics. And we want you to know it's important for all children 5 and over to get a COVID vaccine, because we know millions of cases of COVID have been in kids. You can trust the COVID vaccine for yourself and for your kids. I do.
We can do this. Find a vaccine near you at vaccines.gov, paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Every 3 seconds, there is a new victim of identity theft. A criminal could be applying for loans in your name, selling your personal information on the dark web. Now, protecting your identity can be very easy thanks to LifeLock by Norton. No one company can prevent all identity theft or monitor every transaction of every business, but LifeLock, it's simple and easy to protect yourself, and you'll save up to 25% off your first year when you go to lifelock.com or call 1-800-LifeLock. Just use the promo code Hannity.
Opiates has taken everything and everyone I've ever loved away from me. Everything.
I blew my ankle out and I got prescribed pain pills by my doctor.
If making my detox public is going to help somebody, I'm all for it. I just wish I would have had a warning.
Opioid dependence can happen after just 5 days. Know the truth, spread the truth. A message from Truth, the Ad Council, and ONDCP.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone?
Do flowers have best friends?
I don't know. Hey, look.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. Your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of stuff we're talking about here today. A lot of ways to interact with the show. Of course, we have a lot of the comments coming in over on our social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk, because we can find us on either of those. And a lot of issues we're delving into here today. But now we're actually going to be doing one of our first interviews of the day here. Really a lot of stuff going on here today. But specifically right now, we're going to be talking with Blanca Trout, GOP nominee for the seat, County Commissioner's Precinct 4. So thank you very much for joining us here today.
Thank you for having me here. How are you?
Oh, doing well. Thank you very much for coming in, because this has been something kind of back burner for a bit, and a lot of the issues coming on. But with this election coming back up again, the election day towards the end of this month, but early voting starting in just over a couple of weeks here, wanted to revisit with you because we talked with you, of course, listeners may recall, in the midst of the initial primary election here. But of course, this one going to actually on both sides of the ballot, a runoff election. We still have a surprisingly crowded field, even as we're headed then towards the general election here. So, of course, for those who may not be familiar with you or missed our previous interview, reintroduce yourself, please.
My name is Blanca Trout, and I'm your candidate for County Commissioner number 4. So I'm in the runoff here. So working so hard with a positive attitude, with a lot of love for serving.
Absolutely here. And so some of your background and qualifications, of course, you have served on the Canutillo Independent School District's Board of Trustees, another important taxing entity in its own right.
Definitely. That's where we set some tax rates over there as well for the Canutillo, Vinton, all the areas over there.
Yep, and of course parts of El Paso as well. They're on the what's now becoming known as the Northwest area. But so specifically for this position, looking to move more into the county-wide part of the position here, some of the things that you were talking about as parts of your background and your platform on this, financial issues, financial balance and risk assessment is one that you have talked about a lot here. So particularly coming out then of this runoff election, what are some of the things that you're wanting people to know about the platform and how you're considering, again, just even finances and how that's going to be working going forward?
Well, like I said, the risk assessment to conduct one. The big issue right now is taxes. Definitely. It's something that I would like to work in. Of course, I would like to see it, and how we can make a transparent situation in these taxes. How can we help the community here in El Paso and let them know how can we work together? But the thing is, one of the solutions that I see is setting, lower tax rate in this. It's one of my priorities. The second one, of course, is safety and security here in El Paso. We need to increase the safety and security here in El Paso to provide the communities here that we are a nice county. We are beautiful El Paso, El Paso safe. Definitely we need that. And of course, infrastructure. We need to oversee our streets here. And not only in the east side or northeast or west side, but it's also all over. But now I think the forgotten child is all over. Vinton. Vinton needs a lot of supervision over there. Of course, that it needs a lot of our efforts to put over there and invest in infrastructure, streets, roads, pavement roads. That's what we really need.
So when it comes to then again your run for county commissioner here, again seeking the nomination on the GOP side of the ballot, the issues that we're looking at, I mean, there are a couple of major ones here that we'll be getting into a little bit further. But again, just when it even comes to your platform here, you mentioned safety and security. And of course, the county oversees the El Paso County Sheriff's Department, which has a primary, kind of jail and prison responsibility, but then also, again, the outskirts of the area here, in which we've seen a lot of growth as well. So when it comes to that, I mean, just some of the issues we've had previously that have fallen off a bit because of either being better solved, but may come up again, and things like even just the infrastructure when it comes to law enforcement agencies. Radios were a problem for years after major investments were made that just were not panning out. So that kind of takes a real kind of concentrated focus to stay on top of these things. So your philosophy and thoughts on how to manage that again if elected?
Definitely. If we grow in a county, of course, automatically we need to grow in safety and security. We need to put more officers and provide the needs. For example, review the policies as well. I would like to check how the policies are, if they have all the benefits that they needed. Because, of course, there's the people that are in the first front and they're risking. And we need to support definitely our safety and security. Like I said and mentioned, if our county grows, automatically we need to hire more officers.
Okay, so more officers and focus on the drives there here. And again, if you're just joining us, guest right now is Blanca Trout, candidate for the nomination on the GOP side of the ballot for County Commissioner's Precinct 4. That is the seat currently held by Democrat Carl Robinson. And of course, just as a reminder here, because making sure we have them clear and non-confused here, that primary runoff election, that day will actually be May 24th, but early voting starting here just under a couple of weeks, May 16th. So mark your calendar and make your plan to vote. Now, if people want to find out any more information about you, get in touch with your campaign, what's the best way for them to do so?
They could always, I have a phone number. It's only for the campaign is 915-630-4041, or my email, electblancatr@gmail.com. Also, I just opened a Facebook page, Blanca for County Commissioner.
Okay, so find her on that. And that phone number one more time, if you please.
915-630-4041.
Okay, so that's just a couple of things on your platform here, delving a little bit further into it here. I mean, they're talking about optimization of services and more communication within the county. Now, of course, that was something seen at kind of the best example I can think of was kind of the top level in the midst of the pandemic and restrictions we were seeing, when there was kind of that, essentially top level, and it's hard to see if it really went further down, but that kerfuffle and a little bit of infighting between such as the mayor and county commissioners, or specifically the county judge here. So when we're that's kind of the most recent thing people might remember when it comes to coordination between local entities. So focusing on that then, as you do here, how do you want to go about that? And particularly in reference to what may have seen as somewhat contentious between otherwise major organizations in the county kind of in recent history.
Yeah, definitely. The county has specific duties to do. And then, of course, the city as well. We could be in combination, of course, because all of us, we are representatives. We are here to serve our community. So what we need to do is to get together to focus on what is the best thing that we could help El Paso or El Paso County in economical stability. The best thing that we could do. Merge together, talk together. And then, of course, each one of us, I mean, the county has their own specifications as well, El Paso. But, by the end of the day, I mean, all of us, we serve the community.
And then one other issue that has come up more recently that you've also been talking about, public health and community services here. I mean, of course, public health in its own right, I mean, with the pandemic has had a focus almost unlike any other time in recent history. But then more specifically, they've also had some recent conversations about TB, tuberculosis, and concerns about that. So philosophically speaking, your approach to managing on the county level, I mean, we have, of course, the city county health department and other related agencies. How would you, from the leadership position of a county commissioner, look at and want to address these issues?
Of course, oversee and check the hospitals, clinics, all those, the doctors that have good, to serve their certifications to serve in certain things, like for example the ones that are, for example, they work in the contagious situation like the COVID and all the illness that you just mentioned. Of course, they got to have certain specifications and certain certifications. The doctors, they got to be ready, of course, to attend fast and soon to provide what do they need. Okay, we have this patient. The patient goes to infectious department. Okay, we have the other patient that he comes already with the lungs problem, and everything got to be open beds. Now that I see, for example, last week I was visiting one of our hospitals here. They didn't have enough beds. It is a problem because we need to provide to our community all the needs do they have. They pay in taxes, of course. And what is our obligation? To provide a good quality service, right? When they go, when they need their medications as well, when they would like to speak and be attended by a doctor. For whatever reason, we're short in doctors right now. Nurses is something that we need to hire more as well and put attractive salaries for them to come, because them are doing a risk, of course, work, right? And I really appreciate all the people that are, working as doctors, in the health department. I really would like to congratulate and thank you so much, because we survived this pandemic. We would like to have a better, don't see those rates, and we'll see better, people that they came out to this COVID-19 pandemic. But we need to be prepared and be ready in case that we need to face another situation like this. So we're going to learn from this. All of us, we're learning. People at home, people in here, like in elected officials, we're learning from this because we never expect this.
Right. And that, of course, the responses here and how it's being managed has been quite the focus on both local, national, statewide. So being prepared for it makes a lot of sense here. We got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we're still going to be talking with Blanca Trout again, candidate for the Republican nomination for Precinct 4 for County Commissioner's Court here in El Paso. And again, you can find her Facebook. There is the Blanca 4 County Commissioner profile if you want to find that. And again, that phone number if people want to give you a call.
915-630-4041.
Okay, we're going to talk more about this and a whole lot more, including some more of these larger issues from the county as well coming out of this break. So Blanca will be sticking around with us, and then we'll be back to talk more about that, including what's going on, those tax rates, property taxes, all that kind of stuff, very much in focus, plus more issues on infrastructure and even the bonding issues that the county can come into and growth. So all of that coming out of this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
With your CBS 4 News Update, I'm Amanda Guillen. CBS 4 On Your Side has obtained a letter from the Las Cruces Police Association sent to City Council regarding a multitude of complaints within the Las Cruces Police Department. The letter makes complaints against Chief Miguel Dominguez, who only started back in 2020. In the letter, the association says that Chief did not give a statement of solidarity after multiple officers were injured on duty. The association also claims there is a lack of transparency and accountability within the department, causing officers to leave the force prematurely. Mayor Ken Miyagashima provided CBS 4 with a statement saying, in part, quote, "The contents of this letter was very disheartening. However, I will comment to the public that the concern of not having enough officers to patrol the streets will be addressed immediately." For more on this story and for the latest news updates, visit our website, cbs4local.com. That has been your CBS 4 News Update. I'm Amanda Guillen.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Police responding to a crash reported at eastbound Paisano Drive at the 110. Most of your El Paso freeway is looking pretty good. There's some slowing on the 10 westbound between Hawkins and Paisano Drive with 7-minute delays. Another crash northbound Mesa Drive north of Schuster at Baltimore. And another injury accident Sunset Drive west of the I-10 at Osborne Drive. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. As we get into tonight, we should expect fairly nice conditions, a little on the cool side again, with temperatures dropping to the lower to mid-50s, winds out of the northwest to 10. Friday's winds will be breezy but gusty, gusting to around 25 miles an hour. Slightly stronger gusting Saturday to about 35-40 miles an hour. Saturday looks to be the hottest day this weekend. Mother's Day, as of right now, still looks windy.
This report is sponsored by Brake Masters.
Quit staring at your phone. Just leave it alone and get the Brake Masters. Get your tires aligned, then get out there and see what you can find. Get your vehicle in Brake Masters shape today. Download coupons and schedule an appointment from your smartphone.
Brake Masters. We give you an honest break. Home title theft. That's the identity fraud you really need to worry about. Why? Because home title theft is on the rise. It's devastating, and you can even get evicted from your home. Look, credit card and bank identity thefts are a nuisance. But if a thief gets your credit card, the card company handles it. And the same with your bank account. Your bank covers it. But when a cyber thief forges his name onto your home's title, he can take over your home and even have you evicted. That's why you should protect the legal title to your home with Home Title Lock. America's leader in home title protection. The instant they detect a foreign or domestic cyber thief tampering with your home's title, they mobilize their U.S.-based experts to help shut it down. Protect your most valuable asset. Go to HomeTitleLock.com and register your address to see if you're already a victim. And use promo code RADIO for 30 free days of protection. Again, that's HomeTitleLock.com. Promo code RADIO.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso, weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM, brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., and let's talk El Paso.
During Staples Teacher Appreciation Week, earn 20% back in classroom rewards for your favorite teacher or school, plus up to 5% back in Staples rewards for yourself. Download the Staples Connect app to sign up for classroom rewards. In-store only, offer ends 5/7. Staples, the working and learning store. This report is sponsored by Staples.
Text and whatever. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of comments coming in from there on a lot of the issues we're talking about here today. Barbara Carrasco, John Brazelton, an interesting YouTube account, Tarot Destroyer, but Merle, Francisco Amaya, John Hertz, RJ, and more. Calvin Williams a little bit earlier, tuning in, chiming in, dropping those likes, which we do appreciate over on the Facebook page. John Karaoke, I'm saying that right. I'm probably not doing that well with the name. They're making it sound like something else. But Flavio Jimenez, Calvin Williams, Robbie Flores, and Monaco Cervantes, we do appreciate it in our mission to continue talking about one of the issues affecting us here in the Borderland on live local talk radio. So, continue our conversation now with Blanca Trout, GOP candidate for the nomination for County Commissioner's Precinct 4. Thanks for sticking around with us.
Thank you.
Absolutely, because we were talking a little bit about your platform, some of the specific things that you're wanting to interject into the office. But, of course, there are some large issues that have continued to evolve even in the midst of this election, and will definitely continue to be of focus and probably changing in their own ways ahead of then the general election in November, just because if anyone's confused, this then sets up November. So, no, this is not the final election, but will determine what will be going into the final election. So one of the primary issues, one that we brought up at the top of this show here, is tax rates and property tax valuations right now. So the valuations of property, as we talked about, has been going up across the state, and that has its own pros and cons, essentially, as I think RJ said. But then what it really comes down to, rubber hitting the road on impact on homeowners and everyone who lives in El Paso County, because even if you don't own a home, if you're paying rent, if the cost of providing that rent will go up, it's fully expected that you'll probably end up paying more. So there's no one that is really not touched by this, unless you're, well, our New Mexico listeners here, you're not part of this one, but I'm sure you'll have your own issues before too long. But really, for the focus on Texas and then El Paso County, of course, you all setting then the taxing rates. That's the real rubber hitting the road moment here. So you mentioned a little bit about refocusing on some of these spending initiatives specifically, but then a question came up about that. So when it then comes to the tax rates and setting those, of course, El Paso County in the most recent time of setting the budget did a revenue neutral tax rate, which means that they kept the same amount of income year over year, no change in it, which ultimately, because of the rising tax rates even last year, was actually a slightly lowered tax rate. One of the only recent times in recent memory that I can think of. It's always, in my years of coverage on it, gone up. So when it comes to dealing with this issue and your philosophy on tax rates, what would you do if elected?
Well, now we could see that everything changed right now.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately for negative, we could see the increase of 15 to 17%. We are growing in this way in the central part, 8%, and we're growing on the east side, 15%. That's okay. It's good that we have houses, but you know what happened? Of course, they will go and increase the price of your house. You know what? Your house now worth than $250,000 when it was less, much less this last year. But what happened? What it comes with it? The tax rate is higher. So what do we need to do as a commissioner in the commissioner court? We need to work to provide economical stability. How to set tax rate, which is conservative tax rate. We need to do that. We need to help the community. We need to help the county, and we need to let them know. We came from a terrible situation, which was the COVID-19. People were not working. People, they were not receiving any pays. Plus, on top of it, we increased the tax rate. It's something that is in our power. If we could do that, at least from what is my preview, my court, I would like to put, of course, a conservative tax rate, because what I would like to use, and I would like to help this economical stability for El Paso County Commissioner Court 4.
So a question that has come up from a couple of commenters here directly related to this is about then the balancing of, because we were talking about law enforcement, again, the sheriff's department, and wanting to refocus on that and potentially, increased hiring, as you said. How would you balance then the needs of wanting to then lower the tax rate? I mean, it probably was going to be lowered as it is because of that rollback tax rate, meaning that there's only so much more extra revenue that can be brought in year over year, and setting it anywhere that will bring in that much more could trigger its own election. So effectively, it's a limit, but then also wanting to reevaluate the spending and potentially increase it, as you were saying, for, the sheriff's department. How do you balance that?
Oh, definitely. Like I just said from the beginning of our talk, to run an assessment, a risk assessment. That one is going to tell us where we are allocating the most of the budget. If everything is wherever is most needed, or we have some leakings. So that's why we have those assessments. We need to know where to allocate and put it in the most needed.
Okay. So, of course, this also links in when we're talking about growth in the county. As you mentioned there, overall, the county saw about an 8% rate, which is, I mean, not zero, but it's also one of the lowest rates we've seen in the region, essentially since World War II, I think it's going to get pointed out as. So it's got some issues with how, I mean, particularly we've been completely outstripped by the rest of Texas, which is seeing like a 15% or more. And there have been certain areas of town, as you were mentioning there, particularly that Zaragoza, Joe Battle, and Montana corridor that has grown quite a lot. So the outskirts are growing. So that then delves further into the county's responsibility. So when it comes to managing or even encouraging growth or dealing with that, what are some of your philosophies and thoughts of what you would do if elected to office on those issues?
If I'm elected in those issues, of course, we need to balance the budget. We need to put it in an appropriate place wherever it needs the most needed, like I told you from the beginning of my talk. If it's growing more in this side and is growing, we need to know why it's more attractive one side than the other. We need to know why we're expanding more. But now that I know we're growing by the area of Canutillo, we're growing. We're going to have some rooftops over there. So we're growing. It tells a lot. We're going to have, expand our school district. So we will see. So I know everyone is experiencing the whole school district a little bit of decline for whatever reason, because the people, they didn't come back, or because the parents, they pass away. Anyways, but I would like to be positive, definitely, of course, because I need to maintain this attitude, because I know that I'm going to work with passion, and I'm going to work my 100% to try to represent my community in the best that I can in this economical stability that we need to provide to our community here in El Paso.
Now, of course, one slightly newer thing that, at least a year-over-year kind of thing that El Paso County has available, is because of recent laws passed within the Texas legislature in that last legislative session, is the ability to have more influence and even bonding ability when it comes to infrastructure. So kind of related to that, looking at that, I mean, this is kind of a new and relatively untested power, because it hadn't really existed for counties previously, and giving them slightly more municipality type power. So when it comes to even just beginning to use and evaluate the use of that, what are your thoughts there?
Well, you know what is, we could have federal funds, and those federal funds are made it exactly to put in and to allocate it in the most needed things. I think it's the federal funds that come in here without harming, the community pockets. We could allocate that. And that's why we need those funds, that revenue, exactly, to alleviate all those problems that we have here. Could be in east side, northeast, west side, central. But we need to alleviate the situation one way or another. So these federal funds that they come here, those revenues, those perks that they come here, are made exactly for those critical points.
Okay. And again, guest right now is Blanca Trout. candidate for the Republican nomination for County Commissioner's Precinct 4. Election day coming up here at the end of the month. May 24th is that day, though early voting will be getting started a couple of Mondays from now, May 16th. If people want to find out more about you again and get in contact with your campaign, what's the best place for them to do so?
I said, again, my phone number that I have for the campaign, 915-630-4041. I have an email as well available that is electblancatur@gmail.com. And I also have a Facebook page, which is Blanca for County Commissioner.
Yep, search that up. Just came up for me here right now. We'll probably post that link here in a little bit as well. And of course, you do actually have an event coming up kind of in the middle of the month, right before the start of early voting, right?
Yes, I would like to invite the community to come and meet and greet there here at Blanca Trout. So I will be so happy to talk to you guys. Any questions that they would like to address directly to me or to the commissioner's court that I could be able to answer, definitely. It is the time. It is a family time where we're going to have music, we're going to have fun, we're going to have food. So it's coming, meet and greet and know your candidate. And I would like to provide the address as well.
Absolutely.
It is going to be Saturday, May the 14th from 1 to 4 p.m. at 7717 Lockheed Street off of Montana. This is in the GOP headquarters.
Yep. So if you've been there, you might know where it is. But otherwise, yeah, 7717 Lockheed Street off Montana there. So go and look for that again. That coming up Saturday, May 14th. So really, when I guess it comes to that last question here about the bonding powers, are you kind of wanting to not really utilize them instead of looking for, again, alternative like federal funds as opposed to essentially having to create a separate taxing structure when it comes to the county for now?
It is a separate tax, and bonds definitely it hurts the pockets of the community. I'm not so bond person, to be honest. I would like to see if there is any federal funds that we could allocate it in the needs that we have here in El Paso and the county of El Paso, and not go directly because, like I said, like I mentioned before, we come from a terrible situation, economical situation, and then on top of it, at bonds, and then you know what, you need to pay this under this tax is terrible right now. So I'm not a bond person. I know that we need it, but should be another places or another revenues where we could get those to allocate what we needed here in the most needed areas here in El Paso County.
Again, guest right now has been Blanca Trout, candidate for the county commissioner seat on the GOP side of the ballot for Precinct 4. Again, we'll find anything more about her. We'll post up that Facebook, Blanca for county commissioner here. And again, don't forget, she's got her meet and greet coming up May 14th at the GOP headquarters at 7717 Lockheed Street. So thank you very much for taking the time to come speak with us, lay out some of these issues, and talk more about your campaign here today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here. And I'm going to ask two things to the community, their prayers and their vote.
Absolutely here. Again, election day coming up. May 16th is the start of early voting for this election. Don't forget to go out and vote this Saturday as well, but not to confuse things. So we got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll talk more about this and all of the issues going into it, taking some of your calls. Here, going to open up that phone line, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound has stop-and-go traffic from Hawkins to Paisano with 10-minute delays for your rush hour. Got a crash up Paisano eastbound at the 110. An injury accident with paramedics on the scene at Kansas Street at Paisano Drive. And El Paso water crews are doing repairs on water mains till 7 tonight. Roadways reduced till 2 lanes on Red Road westbound and northbound Wrestler Drive. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Rocket Mortgage. When you buy a home with Rocket Mortgage, you'll have a team of experts to help you every step of the way. Forget unwanted surprises and unanswered questions. That's not how they work. You'll feel informed and confident at every turn. When you're ready to buy or refinance, Rocket can.
What's done more to improve overall health and wellness, modern medicine or personal hygiene? Actually, it's both. But considering that bathing went mainstream in the 1800s and brushing your teeth in the 1900s, isn't it time for something new, like cleaning your nose? After all, your nose is the body's air filter for trapping dirt and germs, the first line of defense against allergens, bacteria, and viruses from getting into your lungs. But how do you clean your nose? With Navage. Navage isn't medicine, it's more like plumbing. Navage uses powered suction to pull saline in one nostril to the very back of the nose where germs can get trapped and multiply, and then out the other nostril, flushing out mucus and microbes so you can breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier. Join over 2 million others and find out for yourself how refreshing and easy to use Navage is. At Navage.com, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Target, Bed Bath, and Walmart. Navage. Clean nose, healthy life.
Talk El Paso, weekdays at 4 on News Radio 690 KTSM, breaking down the impact of the news on the Borderland and beyond. Brought to you in part by Mission Del Rey Southwest, Souvenirs, Gifts, and Decor. That's Talk El Paso, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., right here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
iHeartRadio Earth is here with little tips for a healthier planet. This spring, you can share your own observations about nature with scientists and play a critical role in scientific discovery by adding to their data collection. Discover more about citizen science programs such as monitoring weather, observing plants and animals, and more. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
Wondering if the COVID vaccine is right for your child? If you can trust it? Want to know what a healthcare professional would say? I'm Dr. Gerald Harmon. I'm the president of the American Medical Association. So we want you to know it's important for all children 5 and older to get a COVID vaccine because we know millions of cases of COVID have been in kids. You can trust the COVID vaccine for yourself and for your kids. I do.
We can do this. Find a vaccine near you at vaccines.gov, paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Have you or someone you know been impacted by a drunk or drugged driving crash? MAD is here to help. At MAD, they provide services at no cost for the victims, like emotional, judicial, and access to financial support. Call 1-877-MAD-HELP.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm, of course, your host, Andrew J. Polk. Busy day to hear a lot we're talking about. We do have that phone line open now. We'll take a few calls here before I get our next guest on air because, of course, a lot to talk about with these elections we got going on. Just, again, to make it perfectly clear, we do have the uniform and special election that'll be finishing up this Saturday, so make sure to go out and vote. And then pretty much on the heels of that, we have the primary runoff election in which we're talking with these candidates. So again, thank you to our guest from this hour, Blanca Trout, GOP nominee for the candidate for the nomination for County Commissioner's Precinct 4. And coming up in the next hour, we'll be talking with Sergio Coronado, Democrat candidate for the same seat here. So potential for them to then meet in the November ballot, but just talking about the issues and their platforms right now here. So a lot of comments, a lot of stuff coming in over here. Barbara Carrasco, Kathy Cordry, John Brazelton, Raul Francisco Maya, John Hertz, and more on some of these issues here. Barbara Carrasco saying cutting taxes, spending for law enforcement. It's all about smart allocation on some of those issues we were talking about. But let's squeeze in a call here before we hit that top of the hour break here. Again, the number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Luis in Central here on the line with us right now. Luis, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew, how are you today?
Doing great. What's on your mind?
I'm calling about something unrelated to the county race.
Mm-hmm.
I'm calling you. I sent you this article. The name of the article is FBI Media Cover for Anti-Trump Union Members Who Infiltrated J6 Successfully Stopped the Count.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot to it. One of the very pertinent parts of this call and this article is that I tried to give KTSM this information. I think it's your parent organization a little bit over a year ago.
Okay.
And it's very disappointing that they wouldn't have me on, wouldn't talk about this issue. Again, this is the issue. FBI and media cover for anti-Trump union members who infiltrated J6 and successfully stopped the count. Do you know what I'm talking about with J6, January 6th?
Oh, yeah, January 6th, of course. Yeah, definitely familiar with that.
Okay, and the reason why I've made this almost my life's mission to bring this out is that there is a domestic terrorist policy that the Department of Homeland Security and the Biden administration is hell-bent on pursuing. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I mean, yeah, they've definitely made their own policies specifically clear when it comes to, well, terrorism and some of these specific focuses. But what were you wanting to comment on?
And it implicates arguably almost half of the country under some very nebulous and nefarious, I'm calling it nebulous and nefarious, frameworks that are being set up. Are you familiar with the government disinformation governance board?
Yeah, we've talked a little bit about that because it's we called it at the time, and definitely a lot of other people calling it the same thing of the whole idea of a ministry of truth kind of sounding thing.
Okay, so here's my assertion: is that it's either peaceful conservative Americans who might have dissenting views that are domestic terrorists, or it might be the government itself that are domestic terrorists. And I'm going to say it's probably the government, and I'll tell you why. Anti-Trump members infiltrated, and I can tell you this now for sure, they infiltrated J6, and the FBI is covering for him. Now, this is really important because this domestic terrorism narrative cannot stand without two separate instances, J6 and August the 3rd, 2019. A lot to say about both of those things, but I'm just going to keep it at J6. If the general public was aware that, in fact, leftist unions committed some of the most violent acts of that day, and they were the most coordinated in their premeditated attempt to stop the count. This is really important. Stopping the count is what amounts to insurrection. An insurrection, which is what a lot of mainstream media has characterized J6 as, is the violent, forceful impediment of government functions. Would you agree with this?
I mean, definitionally, that sounds about right.
Okay, so I'm making the case right now, and I'm breaking it here with you. I am hoping that this is going to go up to KTSM because they killed the story. Natasha Paloma, personally, as a journalist, killed the story. The news director further killed the story. A year later, a lot of damage has been done to the nation as a whole, and KTSM bears at least partial responsibility for not having me on, for not discussing this further. I presented to Natasha Paloma, and she assured me that this went up to the news director, evidence of what I am telling you. It took over 18 months for me to be vindicated. I have been vindicated. I have shared now a story with you, Andrew, which I hope that you're going to go do your due diligence. I'm going to tell you this. If it wasn't for a phone call that I had with the FBI on September the 13th, it is very likely that these anti-Trump protesters would have never even been charged.
Okay, so I see what you're talking about there now. See the email you sent me, and I'll have to do my more reading further into that because sounds important here. And just I was confused at first. You're talking about KTSM because I was looking through my stuff here. Didn't think I'd received anything from you here. Just this has come up a couple of times this week actually. So we are KTSM AM, and then of course we have a KTSM FM, also better known as Sunny 99.9, and then there's KTSM TV, better locally known, I would say these days, as News Channel 9. We are unrelated organizations. Radio and TV are separate. Used to be the same thing back in the day here, just to make that clear for anyone confused, as I was a little bit at the first, that I'd maybe missed part of what you were saying there, but I'll have to take a look at what you're talking about here. Got your email. So I do appreciate the point in the call, but tell you what, we got to take this next break right now. So I appreciate the point here, but we're going to come back and talk more about particularly the local issues. This is more of the Friday stuff we get into as well, but I'll have to see what you got up there about it and take my own look at it. So a whole lot more coming up with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Again, coming up in the next hour, we're going to be talking further about local elections, and particularly with Sergio Coronado, the Democrat candidate for the nomination for Commissioner's Court. So back with more of that here after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound between Hawkins and Paisano, you got stop-and-go traffic with 11-minute delays. Kansas Street at Paisano downtown, an injury accident. Another injury accident eastbound Paisano at Florence Street. Use South Campbell as your alternate there. And you've got lanes reduced on Red Road westbound at northbound Westward Drive because of El Paso water crews putting on new water main. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. Wall Street is closing with stocks much lower as the market reacts to yesterday's interest rate hike announcement. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was down more than 1,300 points at different times in today's session. The Pentagon is being pressed on U.S. intelligence sharing with Ukraine.
The United States provides battlefield intelligence to help Ukrainians.
Spokesman John Kirby told reporters the U.S. does not provide intelligence on the location of senior Russian military leaders on the battlefield or participate in the targeting decisions of the Ukrainian military. A federal judge is hearing arguments today and tomorrow that could keep Alabama's controversial transgender law from taking effect. A complaint filed last week claims the law violates the 14th Amendment. Under the provisions of the Alabama Vulnerable Child Compassion and Protection Act, doctors who provide puberty blockers or other gender transition drugs to children could be sentenced to up to 10 years in prison. The leader of the world's most dangerous drug cartel from Colombia is pleading not guilty to a slew of drug trafficking charges in New York federal court. Natalie Migliori reports.
U.S. Attorney Breon Peace says Dairo Antonio Usaga David, also known as Antonio, was the head of Clan de Golfo for nearly 20 years.
With an army of thousands of members. At its peak, we estimate around 6,000. To put that in perspective, he had more employees than the Boston and Miami police departments combined.
Authorities say the cartel trafficked more than 40 million tons of cocaine to the United States. Members allegedly killed and kidnapped innocent people and Colombian officials under Antonio's direction. He was captured last October after evading law enforcement for years. Natalie Migliori, New York.
The FDA says folks across the nation are likely to get an annual COVID shot, like the seasonal flu jab many already receive. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. California Governor Gavin Newsom continues to voice his opposition to the Supreme Court's reported plan to overturn Roe v. Wade. Dina Kodiak has more.
In a news conference at a Planned Parenthood in Los Angeles yesterday, the governor called for more Americans to wake up, stating that other rights, including gay marriage, are in danger of being repealed.
This never happened in our lifetime. They're taking away rights that have been affirmed over and over again and well established. They are taking them away. Wake up, America.
Newsom said the U.S. is preparing to roll back rights at a time many other countries are expanding freedoms.
We are going to enshrine that, codify that, as we should in the state constitution.
I'm Dina Kodiak.
The South Florida site where a condo complex collapsed last June will go to auction later this month with a starting bid of at least $120 million. Dubai-based Damac Properties has already given a $50 million non-refundable deposit for that minimum bid. Additional bidders must have their deposits in by May 20th ahead of the May 24th auction. Nearly 100 people were killed when Surfside's Champlain Towers South collapsed. 2 New York colleges are partnering up to help launch students' careers in the cannabis industry.
Farmingdale State College and Queens College will offer a workshop simply called Get Started in the Cannabis Industry. It's limited to 25 people to help them learn more about opening, managing, or working in the marijuana space. Officials say the program pairs Farmingdale's business expertise with Queens' ability to reach populations who can most benefit from the opportunity. 2 courses will be held this June.
Natalie Migliori reporting. Elvis Presley had some pretty flashy outfits, and fans now have a chance to see them. Elvis Dressed to Rock will feature more than 100 pieces of clothing from the King's wardrobe that he wore on stage. It'll open Saturday at Graceland and feature the Aloha outfit from Hawaii and more. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now, your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Spring. That's spring. Enter it now.
This report is sponsored by Mothers Against Drunk Driving at mad.org.
Have you or someone you know been impacted by a drunk or drugged driving crash? MAD is here to help. At MAD, they provide services at no cost for the victims, like emotional, judicial, and access to financial support. Call 1-877-MAD-HELP.
From the host of the hit true crime podcasts Dr. Death and Bad Batch comes a brand new, unbelievable story. Sympathy Pains investigates the shocking tale of one woman, a former nurse, who spent nearly 20 years faking illnesses and tragedies until her victims confronted her on national television.
Sarah DeLashmit told people she had leukemia or muscular dystrophy, even Ebola. She knew enough to be convincing, but it was all a lie.
Listen to Sympathy Pains on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, guys. It's me, Brian Baumgartner. And maybe you've heard my podcast,
The Office Deep Dive. Well, now I'm expanding it into even more of your favorite shows in my new podcast, Off the Beat.
Hey, everybody. I'm Rob Riggle.
Hi, I'm Allison Hannigan.
My name is Jamie Lynn Sigler, Meadow Soprano.
Eric Stone Street. I played Cameron Tucker.
Listen to Off the Beat on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, Texas, this is Eric Burton.
And I'm Adrian Casada, and we are Black Pumas. We've partnered with Don't Mess with Texas to turn up the message to keep Texas clean.
So come on, join hands and let us be united. Let's all do our part in taking care of our beautiful state roads.
It's time to step up. Together, we can keep Texas litter-free.
Don't mess with Texas, y'all. Peace.
New on Curiosity Stream. Deformed trees, mutated wildlife, and no humans for miles. 10 years after the disaster at Fukushima, see what this irradiated ecosystem can teach us about nuclear fallout on Radioactive Forest. Plus, looking for the most diverse marine life on the planet? Dive into the Coral Triangle and experience a frenzy of wildlife you've got to see to believe on nature's greatest secret. It's all on Curiosity Stream. Annual plans are $20, just $1.67 a month. Visit curiositystream.com.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on our various social media pages, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. You can find us in a lot of those places under both those names, because our mission, talk about the things affecting us here in the Borderland, knows no bounds, and these are the best platforms we're up on for the moment. More changes may be coming as well if other things change, but really, these are some of the best ones. And Facebook, as much as we have issues with it, is still probably the main page. A lot of comments coming in there. RJ, John Browselton, Kathy Codry, Raul Francisco Amaya, Daniel Grady, Barbara Carrasco, and a whole lot more. So if you're wanting to continue being over there, more than welcome to. Also dropping those likes on the Facebook page, which we do appreciate it. John Karaoke. I know I'm saying it sounds like I'm saying something else there, so if I'm not getting that right, let me know. Flaco Jimenez, Calvin Williams, Robbie Flores, and Monica Chavantes, we do appreciate that. And a lot of stuff going on here in the comments, including some stuff about January 6th, which is not really our focus here today. But some of the other things going on, again, last hour we had on Blanca Trout, GOP candidate, and this hour we're going to be having on Sergio Coronado, Democrat candidate, for the nomination for the Precinct 4 County Commissioner seat. So not technically on the ballot against each other here, but there's, of course, the possibility coming up for the November election. But first, we got to get through this primary first. So we'll be talking about that here, this one. But a lot of other stuff going on. Daniel Grady over on the Facebook saying that Biden is responsible for the inflation and high gas prices. I understand and support Mark Levin's passion, which the left interprets as anger. I mean, of course, we have a lot of other great hosts on this channel and on this station that, of course, have their own viewpoints, and we trust them to take care of their issues as they do here. And we wouldn't have been doing this for this long if there wasn't a point to it. But, of course, we have that phone line open right now. We'll take them through the end of this segment, and then we'll take a break here to get into our next interview here. So if you wanted to call in right now, that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. I do have a call on the line here right now. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
This is Steven from the East Side.
Hey there, Steven. What's on your mind?
Yeah, so I just wanted to mention with the January 6th, so the previous caller mentioned something about it.
Mm.
And, maybe there were some, nefarious things with people being let in or encouraged to go in. That's possible. But even without, let's pretend that there's nothing there for a moment. I would say that it has been used to try to, like you said, malign anybody who ever supported Donald Trump or who voted Republican. And I was looking at the stats. There was 165 people who have been convicted. 20 of them were felonies. So those are like the bad actors who actually maybe assaulted police officers or like actually broke broke in. 145 were convicted for misdemeanors or pled guilty to misdemeanors.
Mm-hmm.
Those are probably the people who, the doors were open by the time they got there. They walked in, they wandered around, maybe took some selfies, and that was the extent of their participation.
Mm-hmm.
And even the most far, white right-wing people, Tucker Carlson, Hannity on Fox, like even those guys are like, yeah, those people who assaulted police officers, who broke in, they should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most Republicans feel that way. If they broke in and they assaulted people, then they should be prosecuted. I haven't seen anyone argue otherwise. So I just find it interesting the way that a lot of people are trying to malign 74 million people who voted for Donald Trump based on the action of really those 20 people who've been convicted for felonies. It's just, I think, a strategy and a tactic to try to win support and votes and kind of malign half the country. So that's my view on it.
I mean, the political implications, of course, on this are, it's entirely wrapped up in politics, so I wouldn't be surprised that someone's trying to make hay on this. But when it comes to the local issues we're dealing with here today, anything further you wanted to say on, the property tax rates for the candidates we're talking about today?
Yeah, I think it's only fair that people who have been paying a certain tax rate for a long period of time, especially those on fixed incomes, it's not really fair to increase their tax rates. And so I support that entirely.
The rates are going up. I know that for those that do have the homestead exemption, but if you're making sure you've got it there, it is available to every homeowner, but again, not renters, which has been a finer point that has been made. It does do some decreasing of the amount that can actually be applied to as counting towards your property taxes. But then also there are limits on how much your rate can be used at any given time. Specifically, 10% is all it can be raised at one point. That Texas Monthly article I was mentioning towards the top of the program here, the author of that one mentions in their situation that their difference between their market value and the assessed value, including the limitation from the homestead exemption, it comes down to basically $250,000 in difference. So it can make a difference, but this is why it pays to pay attention on your end to make sure you've got your stuff in line and make sure that if you're going to be filing a protest against it, that you've really got your information, bundled up and ready to go. And for that, but also particularly when we're talking about these offices we got here. So because technically in a vacuum, an assessed value on your home increasing does not have to therefore mean an increase in taxing. Because if they actually drop the rates, it could drop your property taxes, even if the amount that you're paying, or the valuation you'd be paying it on, has risen. But that's why these elected positions matter that much, because these are the decisions that will then affect it. And we've got all the levels we're dealing with here, again, focusing here today on county commissioner side of it. But then we've got EPCC, your school districts, and of course the city, if you live within El Paso city limits. And the city has made their own positions on it, saying that they're looking at a lowering. They held the line last year, which of course meant they still brought in a little bit of extra revenue because of that increase in the valuations and the rate staying flat. The county had its own position last year, so that'll be a key one, I think, for a lot of people looking at this issue and making their evaluations of these candidates.
I would also add that you should make sure that you are signed up to have that exemption. I don't think that's automatic. I think that's something you have to sign up for, and it wouldn't be a bad idea to maybe provide some instructions to people to see how they can check and make sure that they are under that exemption if they're a homeowner.
That actually is probably a pretty good idea here, because I know that there may be confusion about it, because there are some different ones. There's like over 65, disabled veterans. Just from looking at the EPCAD, El Paso Central Appraisal District website right now, you do have to claim it. So yeah, it's not a box that's checked for you, but due diligence is half the battle when it comes to anything involving taxes. So we probably should delve further into that. That's not a bad idea.
Have a good evening.
Yeah, you too. I've appreciated that one there. All right, that's going to lead us up to coming into our next break of the hour right now. Again, coming into the next segment here, going to be talking with one of those candidates dealing with some of these issues if elected to office here. So we're going to be getting into that and more of the comments and calls and all that good stuff. So calls on pause for just right now, because we got to our candidate interviews. But coming out of this, we'll be talking again Sergio Coronado, candidate for the County Commissioner Precinct 4 from the Democrat side of things. So stay tuned for more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Even if if you've got a burning comment or question you want to get through to us, particularly for future shows here, don't forget about the pound 250 system. And of course, the talkback feature on the iHeartRadio app. Just look for the red microphone. You can leave us a message on what you have to think, and we'll certainly review those in coming shows here. But otherwise, stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. If you've been liking the cut I got, I've been appreciating it with the weather and the wind we got going around. A little bit less to be blown around, and really has made it for, motorcycle driving weather. I have been appreciating having that closer trim. And if you want to get the best one for yourself, you got to go to the place that I go for all the hair on my head, Gentleman's Republic Barber Salon and Men's Spa, because they've got all the services that you want across those, the traditional arts of barbering, plus some of the best services you might want to have from a spa, and all of the great stuff that comes with it. They're, of course, the hair and beard sponsor for the program here officially. And I've already got my next appointment scheduled with them to make sure that I can get in when I want to and get my barber to go and do everything that I need, all the hair on my head here. You can give them a call, schedule your appointment, 915-532-3000. Again, 915-532-3000, or visit them online at gentsrepublic.com. I know we got a lot of focus on some of those other parental holidays coming, but don't forget that Father's Day is coming up before too long as well. So get Dad what he really wants, a full slate of services, including expert hair and beard styling from Gentleman's Republic Barber Salon. Again, gentsrepublic.com, the place to find them.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound from Hawkins to Paisano Drive. There's a 15 minutes delay, stop and go traffic westbound on the I-10. Gateway Boulevard southbound at the Trans Mountain, accident reported. Downtown, an injury accident eastbound Paisano at Kansas Street. And the roadways reduced to 2 lanes on Red Road westbound at the northbound Wrestler Drive. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Brake Masters.
Quit staring at your phone. Just leave it alone and get the Brake Masters. Get your tires aligned, then get out there and see what you can find. Get your vehicle in Brake Masters shape today. Download coupons and schedule an appointment from your smartphone.
Brake Masters. We give you an honest break.
Wondering if the COVID vaccine is right for your child? If you can trust it? Want to know what a healthcare professional would say? I'm Dr. Ada Stewart, Board Chair, American Academy of Family Physicians. We want you to know it's important for all children 5 and older to get a COVID vaccine, because we know that millions of cases of COVID have been in kids. You can trust the COVID vaccine for yourself and for your kids. I do.
We can do this. Find a vaccine near you at vaccines.gov, paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human.
Maybe you've had to put off a health appointment or two during the COVID-19 pandemic. But if you're 45 or older, there's one test you shouldn't put off any longer. That's your regular screening for colorectal cancer. Colorectal cancer is the leading cancer killer, but can be prevented with regular screenings starting at age 45. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. It takes guts to put your health first. Ask your doctor about your options today and visit cdc.gov/screen4life for more information.
Welcome back to the quickest podcast ever, brought to you by Kohl's. Today's topic, deals on Mother's Day gifts. Moms are the best and deserve the best, which is why I went to Kohl's and got Nike tees for under $30, jewelry for just $19.99, and slippers for under $17. Leave it to you to find all the savings. What can I say? Like mother, like daughter. Did I mention you can get an extra 15% off or even more with a Kohl's card? Your mom would be so proud. Select styles, Nike sale ends May 8th. Coupons do not apply. 15% offer ends May 15th. Some exclusions apply. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. Keeping you informed and up to date. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on our various social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. We have the pause on the calls on the phone line here right now because we're continuing more of our interviews on the elections that we got coming up here. Again, just to make it perfectly clear, we do have that finale of the uniform and special election coming up this Saturday, but right on its heels, we've got those primary runoff elections with then early voting starting May 16th, so just a couple of Mondays from now. So that's what we're talking about here today. Previously, we had on the GOP, one of the GOP nominees, but right now we're joined by Sergio Coronado, Democrat candidate for, again, County Commissioners Precinct 4. Thank you very much for joining us here today.
Thank you very much, and we really appreciate the invitation.
Absolutely, because talking about all the candidates on here, we ran out of time ahead of the actual primary election to talk about all of these seats, so we kind of called our shot with what we could squeeze in on the schedule here, but because that was a pretty crowded field. I mean, technically 8 candidates on the 2 different sides of the ballot here, split between them. So you, of course, people, we talked about it in the midst of the election here. You are now in the runoff election with the incumbent there, Carl Robinson. So for people who aren't familiar with yourself and weren't, or maybe on that side of the ballot here, introduce yourself and describe a little bit about your background.
Well, yeah, I'm pretty much born and raised in El Paso. I've been in Canutillo since probably 3rd grade. I graduated from Canutillo High School, went to UT El Paso, went to UT Austin for law school, graduated there, and worked with the Attorney General's office there at the Prosecutor Assistance Division. Then I went to the Travis County Attorney's office. So I've been assistant county attorney both in Austin and in El Paso. Then I went into private practice with a local firm called Grambling and Mounts. They're now Mounts Green Myers. A lot of them still friends of mine. And I've also, started my solo practice after that. And then back in 2002, I got on the Canutillo school board and have served for about 16 years. I took a little break and have this, really education is a passion of mine. And so that's why I wanted to get on the school board. And I feel that we've really led Canutillo District into becoming one of the top districts here regionally. And just for your information, this past weekend, we were at Austin, invited by HEB for Excellence in Education Awards. And so we were the finalists, top 3 districts in the state, and we actually ended up winning it.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I missed that announcement there because that's important to note here. And of course, Canutillo, a lot of the issues facing that specific area are being writ large for the county itself here because, of course, growth and how to deal with and manage it and taxation all very much wrapped up in with that. And I mean, it is worth pointing out here, both with our previous guests today and you both serving on the Canutillo school board here. So that's just a confluence here. But again, with your then focus on this here, I mean, I guess essentially what then made you want to then run for this office, county commissioner seat?
Well, I felt that we need people in county government, and not just in county government, really in all levels of government. We need people that are, highly qualified and are going to be engaged to make sure that the constituents are represented. And so I want to do that. I think I'm qualified. I've been, in county government. I've practiced both as an assistant county attorney in Austin and El Paso. Even after that, I've practiced in county government. I know the ins and outs of the county government. And I sat on the actual I guess in the late 80s, the Jail Population Review Board under then Sheriff Samaniego. So I've been involved with locally with a lot of the issues related to county government. And so I felt that I want to serve my constituents in that way.
So it's worth noting here at this point that out of the initial election, you get in the runoff with an incumbent, Robinson, that you were slightly ahead of him, but again, within the margin either way of within causing the runoff election, absolutely. But that you actually now have garnered the endorsement of your previous opponent there, Dorothy Sissy Bird.
That is correct. Yeah, Sissy did, really appreciative of her endorsement. She contacted me right the night of the election. After the results were in, she congratulated me and told me that she was going to endorse our candidacy. So I'm real proud of that. I feel that I'm as represented a constituency in my area in Canutillo. It's a suburban kind of rural area, and also now it's really sprawling out there, and so the city's caught up to us. And so I represent a diverse constituency out there. And that's exactly what the county represents. We have people that live in the city, but yet those outlying areas, that sometimes don't have any kind of government except sometimes even just the school board. And so, and next to that would be really county government, who covers the entire county of El Paso. And so that's why it's important for these areas that they select their officials, that somebody that's really going to be there for them, and actually be engaged and do the work.
Absolutely here. So again, guest right now, Sergio Coronado, candidate on the Democrat ballot for County Commissioner Precinct 4. You want to find anything more about him or his candidacy here, you can go to sergiocoronado.com. And are there any other outlets that you'd like to mention that people can find you on?
Well, they can find us on Facebook. We're on Facebook, some of the social media. So everybody can, we really have taken to doing our website on Facebook, actually. Also logged in, or
I mean, we do that too. So
everybody does too, I guess. So
I would be okay. Looks like we might have some spamming going on our social media that we will deal with here. But I mean, we would absolutely understand the talk about being on Facebook here, because it makes sense. And just as a moment to note here, that if you're spamming comments on our social media, you're going to get gone. Pretty much a very simple part of our our policies that we have displayed on all of those here. So if you're leaving 8 comments in a row with profanity on it, you're going to get blocked on there, just to make that perfectly clear. Anyway, back to the issue at hand here, as that came up. Again, sergiocoronado.com is your website. And on that, you got some of your priorities you talk about, again, if elected to office. And so your first one here is the idea of good government. So when you're talking about that, what are some of the concepts you have baked into there?
Well, I mean, people need to make sure that the representatives, that they vote for issues that, and in terms of the way that the government is handled, that they're transparent. Apart from that, we want to make sure that the departments within each of county government are not running efficiently. Not only that, but in compliance with laws and regulations. That's all about the issues of, good government. Is you oversee a lot of these departments. There's probably the budget is almost close to $2 billion a year for the county budget, and it controls all the courthouse, which is all the judges. The sheriff's department, the jail, UMC hospital, and all the clinics. There's a lot of, the justices of the peace, the constables. So it encompasses quite a lot of departments within the county, the parks. And so that it makes sure that, good government is, you want to be transparent. You want to make sure that your representatives show up to represent you, that they are engaged, and that they are going to be, overseeing these areas, that you make sure that they are, one, running efficiently in compliance with with the laws of just not the policies of county government, but the state and federal laws. And so those are really some of those issues that, we want to make sure that we're transparent about all of that.
I mean, transparency, sunlight is one of the best disinfectants, is a phrase I find very influential in my thinking about how things should be done in government. But then just going through the other couples here, you also have quality of life and safety mentioned here. So when we're talking about quality of life here, wanting to work with other local governments, what is your focus there?
Well, quality of life, there's really a lot of issues that we need to do. Obviously, one of the things I also want to do is, because I think our parks have kind of been neglected in the past, the county parks rather, our roads and bridges. One of the big issues that's come up with everybody actually since 2006 is the flooding. That's happened not just outside in the county, in the outlying areas like Canutillo, where I'm from, but in the lower valley. And, and not just there, in El Paso, in the city of El Paso. Last year when we had the rain, I believe it was July, August, I was at the airport dropping off some of my friends, and I saw people getting off their stalled cars, and they had water almost waist high on airport road. Airways Boulevard. This is, I think there's, the people want to make sure that we do something about it. Not only that, somebody ended up dying, getting washed away I think it was on the west side of the mountain.
That has been a pretty consistent issue in a variety of places. I spent more than a little bit of my own time, particularly when I was in TV, talking about flooding incidents and people getting washed away, and even just it then impact to homes. I remember sitting in county commissioner's court and hearing about the analysis from the Army Corps of Engineers, calling basically most of the Mission Valley and Lower Valley as kind of a bathtub without a drain on it now.
That is correct. And so, we've had this problem for quite a long time. I think that we locally here, we need to get all the local governments together. We want to make sure we go out after some state and federal funds, first and foremost. Get a plan to make sure that we fix our flooding problem. I've looked into it. It is going to take a lot of money, but it's not impossible to do. San Antonio had some of those issues, a lot of flooding issues, and they've solved that problem. So why can't we do that? I think we just need to plan for it. Make sure that we have our funds directed how we go about securing them, and get to work on doing those issues, because you never know. We could have another 2006 flood again, and we could have a lot of destruction, not just of property, but of lives.
Yeah, and absolutely. Having remembered Storm 2006, managed to avoid most of the personal impacts to it, though it did kind of affect me professionally at the time. I was actually, it was the culmination of my Eagle Scout project that the area we were going to do the work in was no longer there. We came back from a hike there. So, that's the minimum kind of impact that you had from that thing. But yeah, the specter of that certainly has a lot of focus on here. So finally, that last point there, safety. You mentioned health standards, equipment. So is this something, safety can mean a lot of things to different people here. So are you looking at this primarily from the public health side, or is there other baked into it when you bring that
both,
topic?
Post-pandemic now, the issues of where we got to safety and county standards has come up. And so we need to make sure that we are vigilant. I see a lot of people now that are kind of like letting their guard down with respect to, post-pandemic issues. We think we're completely out of it. We just need to make sure that we have safety standards with respect to that. But apart from that, I'm talking in terms of just not safety in issues of, standards for health. But, in terms of the health issues, we have a lot of issues with regarding to mental health here in our community. And one of those issues is that we end up dealing with it through the criminal justice system, where it costs us more, instead of doing some, rather preventive type mental health care here locally. And I'm sure it's probably the same throughout the state and the country. We don't do a very good job with mental health. And what happens is that people that have some of these needs, unless you're really in dire circumstances, you're not going to get accepted unless you have a really very good insurance. And so what happens is these people end up getting not getting their treatment. They end up getting in trouble on the criminal justice side, and then we have to deal with them, and it costs us more to do that way. So there's some of these areas that we need to do in terms of the safety issues. Our law enforcement, I know, just recently has gotten a grant, the sheriff's department, to be able to train their officers better with respect to response when we have issues that people have mental health issues. So I'm glad that we're doing that, but I think we need to make sure we train all our officers to be able to deal with people who have these mental issues, and that we don't have, that their safety is not imperiled. In the past, I know we've had people that have had some serious consequences as a result of coming in touch with law enforcement, and so we need to make sure that we that safety part of it is addressed. And like I said, I'm glad the sheriff's department has gotten this grant and they're doing something about it. But I think we need to make sure that all law enforcement is trained, including our constables, with those kinds of issues. We really need to deal with that. And so that's also part of the safety issue that I want to do, and including our healthcare. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, we've previously had on this program part of that pilot program within the El Paso Police Department, talking about that again, mental health officer and coordination there. So that's an interesting one you bring up here. We got to take that next break right now, but we're going to keep talking with, again, guest right now, Sergio Coronado, for County Commissioner Precinct 4, up for the Democrat nomination for that seat here. So we're talking more about him and more about his platform and some of the other big questions about issues facing the county right here after this break. So stick around with us here, Sergio. Again, we'll be back after this break with more Talk El Paso. We do have the phone calls on pause right now, but if you wanted to leave us a message, again, pound 250 or the talkback feature on the iHeartRadio app is the best way to get at us here. Otherwise, stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
With your CBS 4 News update, I'm Amanda Guillen. A local abortion provider has seen an increase in demand since Texas implemented its own abortion restrictions. Dr. Franz Thurard works at the Women's Reproductive Clinic in Santa Teresa on the New Mexico side of the state line. He says the clinic is seeing a spike in patients from several Texas cities because he is the closest abortion provider. To meet demand, Thurard has had to expand his hours. He says patients will sometimes fly here early in the day, receive their treatment, and fly back home. And later today, Congresswoman Veronica Escobar is expected to address the leaked Supreme Court decision indicating that Roe versus Wade will be overturned. You can count on CBS 4 to bring you the latest on this morning's news conference. It is expected to start at 10:30 this morning. For the latest, always visit our website, cbs4local.com. That has been your CBS 4 News Update. I'm Amanda Guillen.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Stop and go traffic, both directions on the 10 this afternoon. I-10 eastbound between Mesa and Piedras, you got 7-minute delays. I-10 westbound between Hawkins and Paisano Drive, that's an 8-minute delay. A large tractor trailer rig blocking one of the 2 left lanes. I-10 eastbound at Piedras. On Loop 375 northbound at Vista del Sol, an accident reported. You could exit earlier at Pelicano Drive to avoid the slowing. Gary Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. As we get into tonight, we should expect fairly nice conditions, a little on the cool side again, with temperatures dropping to the lower to mid-50s, winds out of the northwest to 10. Friday's winds will be breezy but gusty, gusting to around 25 miles an hour. Slightly stronger, gusting Saturday to about 35-40 miles an hour. Saturday looks to be the hottest day this weekend. Mother's Day, as of right now, still looks windy.
This report is sponsored by Allstate. Don't drive much, don't pay much with pay-per-mile insurance from Allstate. Life is good when you're in the driver's seat. At Allstate, better protection costs a whole lot less. Visit allstate.com or call an agent for a quote today.
Our homes, we protect them from intruders with security systems. But there's another kind of intruder most people aren't aware of until it's too late. Home title thieves. When a criminal transfers your home title to a fake identity and steals your title, no one will notify you. Not the police, not even your bank. Sadly, people find out when it's too late, when their home is sold out from under them, or the eviction notice comes. That's when the legal nightmare begins. You need Home Title Lock, America's leader in home title protection. For just pennies a day, Home Title Lock puts a virtual barrier of protection around your home's title with 24/7 monitoring. Cyber technology has made it easy for criminals to steal your home. Home Title Lock alerts you if your home becomes their target. Make sure you're not already a victim. Go to HomeTitleLock.com and for a limited time, get your free title scan and complete title report. $100 value, free with sign up. Again, that's HomeTitleLock.com. HomeTitleLock.com.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso. Weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you. Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. And let's talk El Paso.
Finding a great hire can be a challenge. That's why there's Indeed. Their powerful hiring platform makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 toward your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply. This report is sponsored by Indeed.com.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. A lot of stuff we're talking about today, including just a whole lot of the issues affecting the region, property taxes, valuations, taxing entities, and the rates, all very much in focus here, along with, of course, more local response happening to issues like the Roe v. Wade pending overturn. But again, focusing more on the local elections, both the current and impending ones here, as we are joined here again in studio by Sergio Coronado, Democrat candidate for the County Commissioner's Precinct 4. Thanks for sticking around with us here today.
Sure.
Absolutely happy to have you here because talking about these issues is important, and we didn't have as much focus on this side of the race ahead of the primary. So as we're getting into the primary runoff, again, just the 2 dates to keep in mind: early voting, May 16th, election day for this one, May 24th, though, of course, we've got that other one on Saturday coming up here. So just mark your calendars and make sure you know what you're voting on when, because it's important here. So we were talking a little bit before the break about your platform here, and there's one part we didn't quite get to, and that was want to talk about the El Paso Promise, right?
Yes, that's something that I want to bring to El Paso. It's fashioned after a program in Dallas County, and also now that San Antonio's getting to do it. It's basically a program where we try to. It's a free community college education and workforce training for our people here in El Paso, and that program basically tries to eliminate. We want to eliminate all those obstacles that people have that keep them from going on to getting a community college degree or some kind of training and certification, so that they're able to earn a good standard of living, have a standard of living, and also contribute to the economy. And maybe some of our kids won't leave El Paso if we have a trained workforce that maybe we can attract some industry with regards to those issues. I know we have a lack of medical jobs here. I mean, we have a lot of jobs and we don't have a lot of people trained for that. And so that's one area that, I think it's really great that we could focus on with the El Paso Promise is the medical side. But I want to make sure that the El Paso Promise does include other things. So, for example, we want to eliminate any kind of obstacle. I don't have any money. This is going to be free. I don't have transportation. We're going to give you a bus pass. I have to work to support my family, or I have commitments. We'll let you work 2 or 3 days out of the week in order to continue doing that. So this is a program that's going to eliminate all those problems that people have in continuing their education or getting a certification to get a good job and stay here in El Paso.
So, of course, I mean, UTEP has unveiled their own kind of internal effort along those lines previously. I mean, they have the Pay Dirt Promise program, which has been doing increased financial aid for those under certain thresholds. Income limit actually raised as of this year to $75,000. So in line with that kind of a conception. But of course, an issue that has been facing UTEP for a long time now has been, a lot of focus from outside of the area anyway on those 4-year graduation rates, and then people having enough credits to get them close but not quite at graduation. So kind of looking to address that issue.
Yes, that's exactly right. Our kids here, some of them, in terms of going to the community college, sometimes it's more attractive for them to go to community college or some kind of workforce training rather than going to a 4-year university. Some of our early college high schools here locally are doing a great job because they come out with a community college degree or some kind of certification. We're trying to do that in Canutillo. Our early college high school has just been named, one of the top high schools in the country. Second here, the number 2 early college high school. But so I want to continue that after people graduate from high school. We want to make sure that we have our kids here that they get some kind of workforce training, they get certified. We have a trained workforce. We attract industry. That's going to raise economic development. It's going to raise the standard of living. In our El Paso area, we still have about 18% of people in the poverty level. Canutillo is more like 20 or 25%.
Okay.
And so these outlying areas in the county are obviously affected more. And I want to do something about that for our area.
Okay, and so one of the questions coming in, and an obvious follow-up to this regardless, is about how then the funding for this works, and particularly the county's involvement in it. How would that work?
Well, every local government should be involved in this, just like kind of fashioned after the Dallas. All the governments local governments were in on it. What they initially got some seed money is from private enterprise. Okay, they got donations of millions of dollars from private industry. Okay, including the banks. To be able to get this started program. What they found out, though, is that most of these kids, or most of these individuals, rather, that and I don't want to call them kids, they're high school graduates, but most of these individuals actually ended up getting qualified for financial aid. So, we put them through this program. We actually get them to apply for financial aid as well. So it may not. This program is really to make sure we manage and help these individuals get through there. And those that don't qualify for financial aid, this program will pay for them. So the great thing of what Dallas is doing, and eventually we could do, is those individuals, their parents that were part of this program, their parents are now getting involved in going back and getting a community college education. Those that never had the opportunity to do that because, again, of those obstacles.
Okay, and again, guest right now, Sergio Coronado, candidate on the Democrat ballot for County Commissioner Precinct 4. And more information about him, this platform, what we're talking about here, SergioCoronado.com here. So a lot of the major issues that we're dealing with countywide, in addition to, of course, your platform here, is taxation and property value rates. We talked about it at the start of this program here, but I mean, the amount of property valuation has gone up between 15, 17%, depending. Your mileage may vary. Here in El Paso, the city of El Paso, and the letters that have come out in recent weeks from the Central Appraisal District. So, of course, then the back end of, that leads to a stronger possibility with even similar, there being taxing rates costing a lot more for homeowners and renters down the line there, of course, here. So when it comes to that issue, what are your thoughts and considerations if elected to office?
Well, the thing is that local governments still have to set the tax rate, regardless of what the valuation is. So that is where one of the main areas that, that obviously people need to focus on is that your elected officials, whatever jurisdiction is taxing you, they're the ones that set the tax rate, not the Central Appraisal District. However, this issue of what we're experiencing in terms of the valuations going up so high, we do have a cap. So those people that are out there, don't despair so much. There is a cap here locally that is 10%, right? They can't increase the valuation of your property
for those with
in
the
any
homestead
one year
exemption, right?
For 10%. So I want to make sure that that people know that. And additionally, because sometimes they really don't know how to read their tax statement. And that's one thing that I think that I want to change and make it a little more user friendly. When I get in, I want to make sure that we do that and make sure that the people really understand their tax statement when they receive it. Because one, not only is they have a cap on that, they may appraise their property at 150,000, but if they're at 100,000, they can't go up to 150,000. Obviously, they're capped at only increasing it to 10,000.
Right.
Okay? So that's one safeguard. The other safeguard is they have a homestead exemption.
Right.
Okay. So make sure that you make sure you contact the Central Appraisal District. Make sure that you check to see if you have a homestead exemption, because that will help you. Additionally, you can, if you think that your valuation is not correct, you all have the right to protest it and make sure you go in there and have a hearing in front of Central Appraisal District and try to convince them that in fact your property isn't valued that much. The other safeguard, and probably the most important, is those people that are 65 or older, okay, the senior citizens, you have your taxes frozen. So regardless of what the valuation is on your property, if you live in your house and you're a senior citizen, you get your taxes frozen. So you don't have to worry about that. Okay. So you also need to make sure that is also, you make sure that Central Appraisal District has you to make sure that those taxes are frozen, that they understand that you are a senior citizen and can freeze your taxes. So that's another important safeguard you have to do. There's some also in the voting right now. There's some amendments on statewide.
Of course, yep.
That affect
Proposition 1 and 2.
I encourage people that for the first two, you go out and vote yes for those.
Absolutely here. So then those are very important things to set out here, and those particularly on the fixed income, a lot of those issues affecting them. Now, of course, there are still then issues for those that don't qualify for the 65 and older and those renting, because none of those exemptions really apply to those kind of properties. So we can still see a wide swath of people in El Paso affected by this. So when it comes to your philosophy or your expectations on setting that tax rate for the county, again, if elected to office, of course, the county did last year. They adopted a revenue neutral budget that there was already some valuation increase happening there. So they actually saw a drop in the effective tax rate because they were bringing in the same amount of money, but since the valuation was greater, they dropped the tax rate. What are your intentions, if elected, to do with the tax rate for the county in this term?
Well, obviously, we just need to make sure that we look that all our departments within the county have the adequate resource to make sure that county government runs efficiently and in compliance with state and local laws. Okay. Additionally, we need to make sure that we're setting the tax rate regardless of the valuation. We could be, property rich, property poor. The money we need is whatever. It's the money we need, and that just makes sense because that's the way you set your tax rate. There's a lot of issues coming into that are tugging at all jurisdictions, not just the county, but the city, because, everybody expects, a cost of living increase. Everybody expects, and certainly you have to treat employees fairly. Okay. So there's a lot of things that go into setting the tax rate, which means, really looking at your budget and what you want to do, not just for your employees, but also what is it that are pressing needs of your government that you need to address. And, my economics professor was really great at this because he would tell me, he says, he'll take a look at it, take things to their extreme and you'll find your answer. I said, people want fair taxes, right? If we didn't tax them at all, would they be completely happy? Absolutely not, because we still need services. We still need roads. We still need all these services from government. So the thing about it is that we have to be smart to make sure that our expenditures are, make sure that if we're doing, like talking about, for example, infrastructure issues, that's going to save us money down the road. Just for example, you as a homeowner, you have a problem with your roof and you say, well, I'm not going to take out a loan to fix it because I don't want to increase my payments, right? Or in this situation for local government, my tax, I don't want to increase my tax. But if down the road, that's going to affect you and you're going to end up having to pay more down the road because now your roof has dilapidated, and one, it's gotten worse, and now it's inside your house and it's destroyed that. Those are some of the things that we need to really see. And I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah, of course.
Obviously, but for current government, there are some of those issues that we need to deal with. Flooding, for example.
Right, like you mentioned, yeah.
So what we want to do is make sure that we're smart. We have engineers in the county and the city, TxDOT. We have the state engineers and federal engineers that can help us to deal with some of these issues, like I said, especially the flooding issues. And we need to make sure that we get all county governments together to make sure that we tackle this problem, because down the road, we could have some of these floods and it's going to affect us. We have, this obstacle in the midst of us between the east side and the west side. It's called the mountain range, right?
Yep.
That every time it rains, it could cause problems. And so we need to make sure that we deal with that.
Absolutely here. So again, guest right now has been Sergio Coronado, candidate for the Democrat nomination for County Commissioner Precinct 4. His website, sergiocoronado.com. Best place to find a lot of the information about him, his platform, and all these parts of it here. So about out of time here for our time here today. So we've gotten to a lot of important things here. Again, those dates, remember, May 16th, start of early voting, May 24th, the election day. And then, of course, as you mentioned there, we do have those constitutional amendments wherever you are in the Texas part of a broadcast area relating to taxation and the formulas in it, and also some of those freezes, the homestead exemptions. All of this is on the ballot both now and coming up. So important things to keep there. So Sergio, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us about your campaign and all of these issues here today.
Thank you, Andrew. Really appreciate it. I enjoyed it.
Absolutely here. So we got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we're going to finish up the show till we got coming up for you in future editions here and a whole lot more. So stay tuned for more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Stop and go traffic, both directions on the 10 this afternoon. I-10 eastbound between Mesa and Piedras, you got 7-minute delays. I-10 westbound between Hawkins and Paisano Drive, that's an 8-minute delay. A large tractor trailer rig blocking one of the two left lanes. I-10 eastbound at Piedras. On Loop 375 northbound at Vista del Sol, an accident reported. You could exit earlier at Pelicano Drive to avoid the slowing. Gary Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Indeed.com. Finding a great hire can be a challenge. That's why there's Indeed. Their powerful hiring platform makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 toward your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey Texas, this is Eric Burton. And I'm Adrian Casada, and we are Black Pumas. We've partnered with Don't Mess with Texas to turn up the message to keep Texas clean.
So come on, join hands and let us be united. Let's all do our part in taking care of our beautiful state roads.
It's time to step up. Together, we can keep Texas litter-free.
Don't mess with Texas, y'all. Peace.
Wondering if the COVID vaccine is right for your child? If you can trust it? I'm Ernest Grant, president of the American Nurses Association, and we want you to know we trust the COVID vaccines. For ourselves, for our patients, for our kids. So should you.
We can do this. Find a vaccine near you at vaccines.gov. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Welcome back to the quickest podcast ever, brought to you by Kohl's. Today's topic, deals on Mother's Day gifts. Moms are the best and deserve the best, which is why I went to Kohl's and got Nike tees for under $30, jewelry for just $19.99, and slippers for under $17. Leave it to you to find all the savings. What can I say? Like mother, like daughter. Did I mention you can get an extra 15% off or even more with a Kohl's card? Your mom would be so proud. Select styles, Nike sale ends May 8th. Coupons do not apply. 15% off ends May 15th. Some exclusions apply. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Traffic's bad enough without Mother Nature adding to your headache. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. That's about going to do it for us on the show here today. So again, thank you to our guests here today, candidates in the runoff election, primarily for, both of them. In fact, in this case, for the County Commissioner Precinct 4 seat, either on the Republican or Democrat side, respectively, with first and second hour. So I'll be posting up more about that. And of course, talking more about this election as we get closer to it. Let's get through Saturday first, because we still got those constitutional amendments on the ballot here. So make sure you get your plan to vote this Saturday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So if you weren't able to get through on the line here today, I know we had some people that seem to be having some technical issues, but the bright side is that we're almost through this week. Tomorrow is Friday, and of course we'll be doing free-for-all Friday there, in which you can leave your own messages for some of the things we talk about here, because there's a lot coming up here, including some suggestions of replacements, shall we say. We'll get to that and a whole lot more, but that'll be tomorrow, 4 to 6 p.m. here on the show, taking your comments and calls throughout the program. So if you felt a little bit jolted today, I know we jammed a lot in, but, well, I hope you found it useful at the very least when you're considering your candidates in both these upcoming primary runoff elections and then eventually in the November elections. We'll be talking more about these candidates and these races in the coming week as well, because we got more on the ballot here and more to get to. So all of that is on deck for us here. A lot of commentary coming on with it here. At least one comment I want to get to, Ed Clora saying, shrink government and you can still provide necessary services without the red tape. And a whole lot more. RJ also saying that's the one nice thing about city and county, they don't print money. And some more conversation also and questions about programs that were being mentioned here. So there's a lot more and a whole lot more conversation we'll have about this and all the subjects we get to here on the program. But we'll have to leave it there for today because we're out of time here for this program. Like I said, your chance tomorrow, get us those pound 250 messages, get us those talkback messages. Wanted to cue that up for the show tomorrow. Otherwise, I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. Stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road. I'll be one of them. And make sure to, of course, tune in tomorrow, 4 to 6 p.m. for Free For All Friday here on Talk El Paso. See y'all then.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 eastbound from Loop 375 to the 54 Patriot, you're looking at 7-minute delays. On the 10 westbound between Hawkins and Paisano, that's a 10-minute delay. I-10 eastbound at Piedras, a disabled tractor-trailer rig is blocking one of the 2 left lanes there. Loop 375 northbound at Vista del Sol, police on the scene of a crash there. And Edgemere at Lee Trevino, an injury accident. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the Borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today. For good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
Weather and traffic info. You need it? We have it. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed. News Radio 690 KTSM.
New on Curiosity Stream. Deformed trees, mutated wildlife, and no humans for miles. 10 years after the disaster at Fukushima. See what an ecosystem can teach us about nuclear fallout on radioactive forest. Plus, looking for the most diverse marine life on the planet? Dive into the Coral Triangle and experience a frenzy of wildlife you got to see to believe on nature's greatest